The Nuggets have beaten the Thunder. We have vanquished all that is bad about basketball, and purity has risen up to the heavens. We'll be talking about what we learned from those two games from the Nuggets, what it means going forward, and a special rant in which I do what almost no NBA fan does, complain about the officiating. Dan, play that funky music. Welcome to a special Hot Tub Time Machine episode of the Blucifer Brothers. Dan's trunks are off and our takes are hot. Welcome in to a brand new episode of the Blucifer Brothers. I'm your host, Kyle Pullen, joined as always by my brother, Ryan Pullen, produced by Dan the Hammer out there. And Ryan, coming to you right after a big Nuggets victory. Huge Nuggets victory. Way bigger than average Nuggets victory. How are you feeling? What stood out to you?
I feel good. It kind of felt a little bit like the opposite of the game last night, where we had a key player go down early in the game, and we didn't really look the same since that happened. And then we kind of fought back, kept it somewhat close, but also, if we're being honest, like, I never thought we were going to win that game last night, even when we got it to whatever 3 or 5. And I think that's kind of how this felt, where they got it down, but it was in the non-Jokic minutes, and then the bench really stepped it up in the beginning of the fourth quarter, and so it feels good to split those games. We kind of needed a split there, especially with the Lakers losing tonight. It feels extra good to have a game on them and Memphis, 2 games on Houston. So it felt important, despite me wanting and telling myself it didn't matter until we won the game. And then I was like, yeah, that was a really big fucking win.
I almost was getting on the BlueSky just to say, and this was heading into the fourth. I was thinking to myself, because we talk, often, and I've talked about on the podcast and off, the real thing that is like the last step for me as like believing and giving yourself, even if it's like a little bit delusional, hope for like a championship. Was like, I was like, I just can't remember a good team this year that it was just like, shit, they came out and just were like, hey, we're going to show up tonight. Like, you pissed us off and we're showing up tonight. And even going into the fourth, tonight was that. And you could tell that the Nuggets came out with intensity, and then the whistle got wild at that first half. And you can tell the Thunder players were like, kind of talking and were kind of annoying to the Nuggets, and they came out and just like punched them in the mouth in the second half. And we're just like, okay. And it really reminded me of when the Blazers, this was a young Nuggets team, when they beat them in the playoff series in the game 7 at home, and they were like, oh, the Nuggets players were like talking big. They thought they were this, they thought they were that. And this felt like a veteran Nuggets team being like, all right, shut the hell up. All right, Chet Holmgren, you weird-looking nightmare before Christmas-looking skeleton. All right, 1, you're upsetting children. And 2, you guys flail for everything. Stop asking for fouls on the bench on Jokic. Stop. You're ridiculous.
The thing that's so frustrating about it, it's not just that they're flailing all over the place, which is obviously frustrating. Like, they're just flopping. And they get a lot of calls because Shea is unbelievable and he deserves the whistle. Don't even get me fucking started on what Nikola Jokic's whistle looks like. But despite all of that, they're so handsy on defense and so physical that it amplifies them bitching about the other side, where you're like, yeah, okay, but like, it's sort of like in a football game where the cornerbacks just commit heinous pass interference early in the game, and they're like, well, that's the standard then, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of have to like figure it out. And Oklahoma City's very good at moving that bar of what becomes a foul on their defensive side because they're so aggressive and so up in their shit all the time. Like, it's not a sometimes thing, it's all the time they're in your shit. So that I think the referees are like, I mean, they've been doing that all game, though. Like, I would call a foul on every possession. It's like, yeah,
So make them
yeah,
stop.
I know. Like, yes, you would do that. So
And are on the other end.
and should
are.
like it should. So that's I think what was extra frustrating to me. Like, Shea is a fun person to watch play basketball when he's just shot making. Like, when he's pulling up in the mid range, you're like, holy shit, dude. Like, that stuff is filthy.
First game that they beat us here in Denver, it felt like Shea wasn't doing the flailing. And I remember I commented on the podcast. I was like, Shea looks strong. Like, I was like, he was not just going in there and, getting bouncing out and then throwing the ball up. Like, he was finishing and he was like really effective. And I think that's your point. Like, he is so good that he doesn't need to do that stuff. It's not like Shea would suck. He's not Trae Young.
I was listening to Simmons and Rusilla this morning, and Simmons compared it to like prime Kobe mid range, and I think it's such a good comparison because we watched those Kobe years fuck us up in Denver, so like we have firsthand experience of what that looked like, and it's very similar. Where it's like, I mean, that was kind of good defense. Like, you gave him any space, and he made the shot. So like, tip your hat and jog back on the other side of the floor. Like, so
okay.
The officials, the officiating it was frustrating. I mean,
and here's my take that is hopefully a comfort to Nuggets fans. Okay, listen, the playoff whistle does not look like what it did. It looks a lot more like that second half where it's like, yeah, man, you bumped him. That's fine. Like, shut up, and I think that's a big thing that we saw OKC struggle with Dallas was like, they're being physical with us. Like, the Nuggets are used to playing through that in terms of, you saw it in both games where like you could see Jamal and Jokic being like, that's the same call on the other end. And then they just kind of swallowed it. And we're like, okay, we're never going to get that call. That's whatever. Like, here we go. I think that's the first thing, is that no team is more reliant on the type of whistle they get than the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because when you break down that roster, Shea is such a good creator. But listen, there's not tons of other get it on your own against like straight up their defense against this Nuggets teams. Like, there's absolutely teams that the Thunder have mismatches on, and I'm not insulting J-Dub or Dort, but those two guys just didn't look in either of the two games like, oh my God, like, we cannot do anything with them. And that was without Aaron Gordon for much of it, arguably our best defender. So if Shea is not getting that whistle and they're not getting free throws, and then, you don't have to double as much, that is a different offensive team. And the second overarching point, and I just have to put it out there because I thought about it a lot watching these two games. And obviously the Nuggets fans are not the first fans to be upset. Memphis fans were like, God, anytime you touch Shea, it's a foul, and they're allowed to grab Ja. And then famously Finch, the Minnesota coach, went after him and were like, they're physical as hell on defense, and you can't play defense against them. It's ridiculous. And he said that after a win. So it's certainly frustrated in the NBA. And I do think that this is part of a bigger conversation about ratings. I think that I was thinking about it today where I was like, when I watch football, I go, oh my God, that's so physical. I could never take that hit. Holy hell, look at these guys. That's toughness. When I watch hockey, I'm like, oh my Jesus, the skill, but also, wow, look at how big they are. Look at how strong they are. Look at all that. And when I watch the NBA sometimes, and when I was watching the Thunder Nuggets in the first half, I was like, I would leave a rec center if there was a guy just coming down the floor every time and jumping into people and going, ah, and then just being like, all right, ours up top. You'd be like, this isn't fun. Like, and so to your point, I want to see the stuff from Shea that is insane mid range. So there was 1 3 he made tonight that it made me so mad because I was in my head just so frustrated with him. And then he just hit this dirty pull up 3. And I was like, yeah, he is pretty good, man. He is pretty good without the whistle. Like I just want to see guys be guys. And I get it. There's a fine line between being like, well, why do you have this big, huge physical guy out there? Oh, he just messes up the good players, because they let you be too physical. I get that. We want to see the skill, but Shea jumping sideways into guys is wild. And it puts refs in a situation where I think the way that it was summed up was perfect from the honestly embarrassing challenge from Mark tonight. Was it technically correct? And is he within his right to do it? Yeah, but you should be embarrassed by it. Jamal Murray blows by Caruso, who grabs him at the waist, grabs him full 2 arms in front of this ref, who does not call this wrap-up tackle. And then the other guy goes over Zeke Naji and slaps him on the wrist. Now, does Zeke Naji clear out a little bit with the arm? Absolutely. So it goes from an and one to just thunderball. And you're just like, okay, we would like to use our challenge and say within the same few seconds, he wrapped him up top. Oh, it's been overturned. Like, where does it stop with this kind of ridiculousness? And it puts the refs in a situation where teams are always going to be frustrated and the solution is simply call it when Shea gets fouled. He gets fouled plenty. And don't let him jump sideways into people. And there was one turnover that he had tonight where you could tell the rest in the second half were kind of sending a message like, dude, we're not giving you that the second half. And it affected the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
And I'm
know.
interested, I guess, also in your thought, if you want to share any about the broader context. Because to me, that's the thing that hurts the watchability of the...
I don't know if I agree with that.
You love watching Shea and Luka shoot free throws?
No,
or
I just don't.
I don't like it. It's not fun to watch.
Hold on, you're not letting me finish. You're not letting me finish my point. I just don't think that's the reason why the ratings are bad. Like, yeah, I agree it's not fun to watch, but I don't think people turned on the game and were like, oh, Shea's flopping around, I'm going to turn it off. Like, it was an entertaining game. So, like, I don't think that's happening. I think the problem with the ratings is a much bigger issue with just, like, the availability of the product and like too many games. Like I was trying to find the rating of the Thunder Nuggets game, and like, what are we comparing? Like, everybody's talking about the ratings like it's a crisis. What are we comparing it to? The fucking NFL? Like, the NFL has 80 of the top 100 broadcasts in the entire world for every year. Every year, that list is just NFL game after NFL game after NFL game. Maybe there are a couple finals games in there. Maybe. So, like, to compare it is not really fair. And I don't think that the NBA has a popularity problem. They do have a night-to-night ratings problem that I think is just fixed by having 60 games instead of 72, which they'll never do. But, like, I think you have to make every game matter, because I do think that these games people are watching because they feel like they matter. That game yesterday, they built that up like it really mattered. Like, it was not only the MVP, it was, can Denver compete? Yeah, it's like they built it up. Which,
here's my point.
I'm saying it was probably a relatively popular game.
Yeah. I totally agree with you that if you're rating yourself based off the giant that is the NFL, you're always going to just feel small, and that's not the goal. I also think, though, I don't think that people go like, oh, there's 12, oh, there's 20 less games. Like, oh my God, this Tuesday night, I really got to tune in. Like,
No, but you can
to
time
me,
it so much better, dude. It's all
I
about the
think
timing of it. Like, imagine the season basically starting right before the Super Bowl, and you get those first 10 shitty games out of the way, and then the season is starting while football is not being played.
it's
Like,
it's the shift of the season is fine, but I'm just saying right now, there's no football. And I think that also I was thinking about this as well. I think that's also a way to create urgency in the regular season. And there's a reason players are like, oh, the playoffs are totally different than the regular season. And part of it is how it's officiated. There were 2 weeks, I think it was 2 years ago, where it was clear the NBA just said, hey, don't let guys flop.
yeah, I
And
think it was a
Embiid and
year
Trey
ago.
Young hated it, and everyone else loved the product. It was great. Games flowed. There was so much more rhythm. There was so much more feeling to it, like all of that stuff. And so I think that to my earlier point, I think it does the Thunder a disservice to officiate them this way because they're not getting used to playing how they are going to have to play in the playoffs. And that doesn't let them, like, that's not fair to say, hey, players, play these games. So they're so important. Every game matters here. And then have them be like, well, this is a different sport than what I'm going to be
Yeah.
playing in the playoffs.
I mean, it's Harden. Like,
I'm not
I
getting
guess
reps.
this,
Yeah. I'm
this
not getting the
is,
same reps.
yeah. I just don't think this is a new problem. I don't think
No,
Shea
it's not at
invented
all.
this.
It just highlighted it for me. And I thought so much of the discourse around the NBA has been about like, oh my gosh, the way that it's analyzed, which I agree there's flaws with. Like, oh my gosh, the way that it's marketed, I agree there's flaws with. Like, but I just think the way that the game is officiated, and that's
I,
not, by the way, an isolation problem of the referees. Like, if the NBA had a problem with what Shea was doing when he jumped sideways in a unnatural shooting motion, I promise you they wouldn't call it. Like,
I,
on no other level would you
I'm
get
gonna
that
push
call. If
back.
you did that, Ryan, when we were in high
I know.
school, the
We're
high
not.
school ref would have laughed.
Let's drop the shade. We get it. Like, nobody likes it. You're right about that. Like, nobody
Yeah.
likes it. It's not good for the game. It does get officiated differently in the playoffs. But I also don't think that tying that to like the league issue is a good. I don't think there's correlation there. There
Yeah.
might be on the margin, right? Like, sure, but I kind of push back on this whole idea of the NBA has like a popularity problem. Like, I understand that people might not be watching the game in the same way that we did or we do now. I just got a crazy ad pop up on the browser and my headphones just were blaring with the music from the ad. That was wild. But no, people aren't watching it the same way. That's true. Like, obviously that is true. But I think if you like at your baby shower, for instance, lovely event this past weekend, I could walk up to basically any guy there and in that bar, in that brewery where we were, and like bring up Nikola Jokic, and they're probably going to be able to sound intelligent talking about him for that 3 minutes, right? Like, and I'm not saying to us, but I'm saying to a regular person, that person is going to know something about that player. That says something about the popularity of the league. It also says something about the popularity of Jokic in general. But I'm just saying, like, I think if you're a sports fan, like, you have a knowledge of the NBA in a way that you don't. It's second to the NFL, and it's not close to the third. Like, when we're talking about the popularity of the league, how are we measuring it? Are we measuring it by the size of the TV deal that they're signing? Because that's increasing. That's not going down in price. Nobody's paying less for these teams. The franchises are more valuable. Like, how are we measuring success here? Because people aren't watching the games every night and sitting down for 3 hours? Like, I don't think that really should be happening all that much. Like, I agree that like the playoff numbers are where we get concerning, but that's not affiliated with the officiating if you're saying that it's different in the playoffs. So I don't know.
Well, I just think it's all connected. I think you can't come in 3/4 of a way through a movie, and no matter how good that movie is from the last fourth, if you don't know anything about these characters and you don't have any prior relationship, it's not going to be a part of your habits. And I agree with you. There's some nights where it doesn't matter. Like, you do your best with scheduling national TV games and all of that. But I just think that more than style of play or any of that kind of stuff, the complaints about all the jacking threes, all the stuff, it's so much of it can be undone with like not letting guys get away with ridiculous things and making it so easy to do. That's
yeah.
I agree with you. It's not the whole problem, and it's not. And I'm not saying that the NBA is on life sport or any of that, or that I'm going to stop watching or there's no drama there. I just think it's a point that's not being talked about enough as a piece of the pie of the problem, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they should fix it. And I don't know, like, I mean, we've had season tickets for 6 years now, but like, I've seen a lot of officials in our day, and it feels like the turnover of officials is so high right now. I mean, it's an incredibly thankless job, and honestly, it's kind of incredible they get the amount of stuff right that they get. Like, it's such a hard league to officiate, and there are so many close calls that they get right that to the naked eye look like they got them wrong. Like, just look at how many failed challenges there are. Like, it's a hard job. So I don't think either of us are, well, I don't give a shit whether they feel appreciated or not, honestly. But it does feel like there's been turnover in that, and that is not good for the league. Like, you want officials to be sticking around because it's like playing. Like, you just get those reps and you don't make the same mistake over and over and over again. And it feels like we're seeing a lot of the same mistakes being made over and over again, which is frustrating.
Yeah. Moving into more talk, I guess, about this Nuggets rotation. Strother went down. Terrible time for an injury for him. I feel terrible for him. He's going to come back. Maybe
Wait, can I make one point? Can I make one point about the Thunder that you made me think about just before we move more into the Nuggets side of things? The other, like, when we think about the playoffs, we make this point all the time. Like, you basically have an 8-man rotation. What is their 8-man rotation? Like, everybody talks about how deep they are, and they are incredibly deep. But that means that guys are sitting, that they are playing right now.
Right.
Like, they have 12 guys averaging almost 15 minutes a game. And part of that is they're kicking the shit out of these teams, and part of it is they've had injuries. But part of it is all those players are good. So, like, it's kind of, they're going to have to make tricky decisions in the playoffs. And if they start to play a 10-man rotation or something like that, like, that usually doesn't work. Like, you kind of need, and it's just going to be a tricky coaching situation for a guy who this is his first head coach job. And I really like Mark Daigneault. He seems like he's a great coach. But
it seems like he has them running good stuff, and
it's just different in the playoffs when you have to be figuring out those rotations on the fly. And I thought about it tonight when they were just like cycling guys in. I'm like, man, you're gonna have to tighten some of this shit up a little bit. And they're tricky cuts to make.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit is that they don't get screwed like I guess it ties right back into Peyton Watson, who I was going to kind of transition from the Strother to. Like, if Peyton Watson has an over-aggressive playoff game and he gets in foul trouble really early, we are fucked with a capital F. Okay. You're going to see Hunter Tyson on that floor, and it's going to be dark days. All right. Like, assuming Strother's not like 100%, right? Like,
And
it's
assuming
like
Dayron
they're
Holmes
just going to
doesn't
play a
come
guy
back.
who is basically another version of the guy that just got in foul trouble. So that's where the advantage comes in. But to your point, also, you just have, they kind of remind me, and they're more talented than this. So this is underselling them, but just like the way that guys' roles are assigned right now, they kind of feel like the Bucks to me. That team that got smothered in the bubble by the Celtics. In terms of they like have a bunch of guys who are like, yeah, dude, I'd love to stand in the corner and knock down threes, and I'll just play hard on defense and do all of that. And then you get to the playoffs, and guys are like, hey, we're going to really close out. Hey, we're going to really. And you even saw it tonight in the second half when the Nuggets were scrambling with pretty much hard doubling Shea, like as soon as he crossed half court. If you have more guys that are creators and are comfortable in that role, that defense is not as effective, right?
No.
And it's the same thing as you saw Michael Porter Jr. making some decisions tonight with off the dribble that were intriguing to say the least. So like we have some of it too, obviously, but there's a thing of like, hey man, I have 10 of the sharpest knives, but they all cut the same thing. So you're like, well, that's dope that you can go 10 deep with these 3 and D and hard-nosed guys. But also, what about one guy who's maybe a little bit lazier, but is a filthy passer or is really a creator and can kind of cook? Because, listen, we are not the greatest depth, but in either of these two games, did Wallace look ready for playoff basketball for you? I know in that second game, once they got up, he knocked down some threes, like all
This was
that.
my
But
point.
like,
This was
we
my
were
point
attacking him
last
with
week.
Jalen Pickett tonight.
This was my point last week. It's not Shea, it's the others. Like at the end of the day, you have Jalen Williams as your second best player. And I think Jalen Williams is awesome. I don't think he's the second best player on a championship team. Like
It's also
he might be 2A and they end up having 3 guys who play at
right,
that
right,
same
right.
level, which is kind of their recipe, right? Like it's Dort having a good game, which he had a
You could
huge
see him
game
going
tonight.
on a Andrew Wiggins like run for that
Yeah.
Warriors championship team, where you're like, oh wow, you were maybe the second best player on that team for a lot of the
Yeah.
playoff, but I don't think you're the
But
second best player. Period. Right? Like,
I'll put
yeah,
our 4 up against anybody's 4 in the West.
yeah.
I don't think that's insane to say. It's
No.
to me, like what this season is starting to boil down to me is really like, can the bench make threes? And if they're shooting the ball, we are going to win some fucking games. And if they're not, we are not. And I mean, that's kind of rudimentary analysis. Wow, that was bad. But
Well,
I think it's right. Like I don't, if we don't, Jokic can have a 40-point triple double every single night, and if we don't shoot 35% from 3 or better with those others guys, and that's not MPJ, not Jamal, it's probably not going to end in a win.
yeah. I mean, also, you did say that the viewers should know the swimming trunks have come off in the hot tub. So you did see Dan's analysis. So that was probably why that Freudian slip happened. But
I didn't know
I
he
think
was
the
that
others,
flexible.
yeah, I kind of alluded to it, but the others tonight, this was a Peyton Watson game and a Russell Westbrook game, and they were just better than any other role player from the Thunder, and the Nuggets won. And the game before, they were a lot worse. than all of the Thunder role players, and we lost. I don't think that's like a wild coincidence. What do you think were like the kind of shots that, because Russ looked ready to fire tonight, and he does have ready, like a little bit of like a I don't know if I'm just talking myself into it, but there are some times where like Russ takes a three where I go, that's going in. Like there's just a little thing in his form. Like he's clearly ready. He gets to hop right into it. It's on the wing. Like, and I'm just like, yeah, I feel pretty good about that. Watson, it feels like corner to me. And then
he was stroking from that corner.
And then
there was a graphic.
He's running there in transition, which I think is a good sign too.
There was a graphic too on, I wonder if it's the same corner. I should look this up. But when I was walking into the game against the Suns, there was like a Christian Brown heat graph of where he was shooting well. And this one corner was just red hot. And everywhere else was like kind of, I mean, it was fine. Like the other corner was fine too, but it was like very clearly he prefers this corner. And maybe it's the same corner, which is why they can't play together.
Yeah, they share a corner. But I guess, how do you think you make, not that you need that many points from Watson, and I think Russ has shown pretty consistently that when he gets to play the Aaron Gordon role, this is about how productive you should expect him to be. Like, right? Like, it's a different thing not knowing that you're going to play with the starters as much. It's not saying that he doesn't know how to do it, or, you know, he making making excuses for his bad game on Sunday, because he was just bad, right? Like it was what it was. It was everything that a Russ critic says about why you can't play him in the playoffs, right? And tonight was everything that a Russ supporter would answer with, right? He was flying around on help defense in that scrambling kind of action, which Russ is actually pretty good in, because he wants to take risks whether you need to scramble or not. So just putting him in situations like that is kind of fine, right? But it feels like, to me, there was more intentionality of getting Jamal going tonight. And it feels like when Jamal's going, there's different types of threes that become available to this Nuggets offense. And so, like, I think Russ, for some reason, struggles with just like standstill threes versus if he gets to like be in movement a little bit and then step into it. And he just gets more of those off of Jamal Murray penetration and kickouts rather than throwing it to Jokic on the wing and standing right there looking at him and feeling like, oh, I need to be ready. So I want to be able to move, attack, it feels
it's more
getting Murray going helps those others more than the game before, where we saw, hey, Porter kind of was our second fiddle and had it going. It doesn't create as much for others as like the Murray second fiddle does. That was my kind of takeaway from this game.
I agree. And the best part about it was that Jamal was like, it wasn't hard for him to get to those spots. Early in the year, it looked difficult for him to like really be off of that 2-man game and get to the elbow and make them make that tough decision. Like all of that stuff, they just spammed it early in the game and said, you guys aren't really going to be able to stop this. And we think Jamal can get going like this. And then you're in trouble. Like, because if this guy, I mean, you saw it. He had that Murray flurry. I think was that the second or the third? But he's playing very well. And I guess to bring it back to the role players a little bit too, where like, to your point, they get better looks when Murray gets going. We don't need a lot if Murray gets going. I looked it up just because I was curious. And do you want to guess what the third person in the playoffs from the finals run, who the third leading scorer was and what they averaged in the playoffs?
I'm gonna still guess Porter, but I'm gonna say he got like 12, 13.
It's a really good guess. And so Porter was 13.4 and Gordon was 13.3. uh, so,
Yeah.
like, that
Yeah.
feels very doable. But
Yep.
Jamal was averaging 26, right? So,
Yeah.
like, that's the key is can those two men. And I think, honestly, like, I feel very comfortable saying I think that Aaron Gordon could average 16 points if he's healthy. Like, he's looked unfriggin' believable. And if that calf, I'm telling you, man, if that calf doesn't get pulled in that first game, I think we win that one too. He is such a difference maker on both sides of the floor right now that
God.
if he's healthy, we're really, really dangerous.
The
And
3-point shot making
dude,
from that man in the two, I
we're
mean, not even two
unstoppable if he
games,
shoots
but
like
game
that.
and a half. Like,
You
yeah.
can't stop us. You can't stop us. Honestly, it's
The
because
Thunder are
he's
the
the
number
worst
one
person.
team
He's the
in
worst
the
person
defense.
in the entire or on the floor with Jokic that could get hot from three. Because he's your best double team option. Like, if
Yeah.
you're going to play that too big stuff, like,
Yeah.
all right, AJ is just going to bang corners on your face from the corner. Like, that's a
Yeah.
tough reality to have to, and then have the Jamal Murray 2-man action off of that. Like, I don't know, man. That's the stuff that gets my spidey sense tingling.
So I
That and
thought tonight,
Dan's non-swimsuit.
and I guess I want to, yeah. That thing doesn't tingle. It's far too big for that.
No,
It's a
it's my
thud.
spidey sense tingling.
Yeah, it's a thud every time Dan gets there. But I guess we can kind of talk about this now. This feels like they're a little bit of a Jokic MVP momentum game. Because even in the loss, it's not like Jokic got worked out there, right? Like,
No, and he was clearly. I mean, the elbow was not good.
But I'm saying, like,
No, even with it, I mean, he
he's
almost had a triple double, and
still kind of messed him up out there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a like haymaker from Shea, right? Where it was like, oh my God, Shea dropped 50,
People
and
treated
Jokic
it like
had
that, though.
15.
People did treat it like that.
And then tonight, Jokic came back and was like, here you go, buddy. And I did think this was an interesting development. I guess first, let's get your MVP thing. I think Shea's winning it. I know you've been a long Jokic believer. I just think Shea's winning it at this point. But I'm interested to hear if you thought that this 2-game, it's the last time these teams will see each other, if it did anything one way or another to sway the scales.
The only way that Jokic can win this is if the Nuggets rattle off like 11 in a row, or if he has. I mean, you could look at the last month of the season and he could average 32, 15, and 10 and be like, all right, well,
yeah,
you might have to give it to him. Like, I honestly think Shea's going to win. I'm not upset about it.
No.
But I do think that there is a real possibility that we're going to look at this like we look at that Embiid MVP. Like, what the fuck did we just do? Like, did we really fall for it? Like, what are we talking about? He scored a bunch of points. He scored a bunch of points, and his team is excellent. That is for sure, like, worthy of praise. That's thumbs up from me, buddy. But if you think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is better than Nikola Jokic at basketball, then I've got a Fire Festival ticket to sell you because you are a dumbass. So I don't know. It's not the best player in the world. Obviously, it's the most valuable player. I don't know how he doesn't win that either, considering he doesn't have a fucking all-star on the team.
Yeah. Even Shai had one this year.
Yeah.
Also, And Caruso is probably going to be in the running for sixth man of the year if
Man,
he
yeah.
doesn't win.
I mean, that roster is like, if you switched the teams,
oh, Jesus.
Jokic would fuck the league up. Like, this is not. They would win 10 championships in a row, especially with all those draft picks. But like,
yeah.
That's not the. I'm not saying that. That's just me voicing my frustration to the podcast listeners. That if you're applying any metric of most valuable player, I do not understand how you get to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, other than it feels weird for Jokic to have won 4 of the last 5 and should have probably won the 5 of the last 5 or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, Shai, I know you've taken some shots on this podcast and you're a loyal listener, and we certainly appreciate that. But I will say it has been nice to not have a guy doing an interview with anyone who will talk. On the other side. And not having Drew Hanlon come in off the top rope. Drew, tell him how good I am, Drew. Drew, tell him about my bully touches. Tell him how I bully people, Drew. I'm just a big bad bully.
My toe hurts. I just don't care that much about Shai in that way. Like,
he's been nothing but
nice guy
with his team and like being I care about winning. Like,
I like the Thunder vibe. They've got a great vibe about their team.
I will say after these two, I think this is another good thing. I know I could hate the Thunder in a playoff series.
It becomes so easy to me.
It was Ryan. It was overtaking me in the first half of the second game.
We could burn a Westbrook Thunder jersey and effigy outside of the stadium.
Oh my God. I was like, I swear if I have to get one more call for Serena Shea out there, I am going to be furious. Like, I was already thinking
If we beat the Thunder in a playoff series, we have to buy Westbrook Nuggets jerseys. Yeah. That's how we celebrate.
Yeah, 100%. Also, Chet Holmgren, he tried to hook up with one of the porn stars from MPJ's podcast. And actually, that's how he broke his pelvis. Too thick for him. She broke him out there.
MPJ did go into his chest today. It looked like it caved in.
Entirely,
so,
you could tell Christian was a little annoyed with him too, because you could see one time Christian, he just straight forearm hits him to like get himself off, and you could see Chet just go, "Oh fuck!"
Ouch, dude. Hey, man, I'm
chill, dude. Not cool, but yeah. I did think that, and it also makes me think about how good of a rim protector Victor Wembanyama is, because the Nuggets scored some pretty impressive layups, but didn't seem like overly afraid to take it inside versus Chet. And I've seen us turn around 4-on-1 fast breaks versus Victor and just be like, you know what? Pull it out, guys. Let's get something set up here. Let's see if Jokic can put a butt on him. Maybe keep him out of my way, because this is outrageous. Because Chet is so good and so long. But you talk about someone who had a little bit of the lights were a little bright tonight for old Chet, because he missed some shots he normally makes.
Well, yeah.
At stages of the game that would have been pretty tough, because they were up 7 there for a while, and Chet missed a few pretty open threes in that scramble drill that
he's also great. I mean, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah.
So like I'm saying that sort of in his excuse for him.
Oh yeah, no.
And as a way to say like,
this is a great game.
If he's gonna be healthy.
This is a great game for Chet to have. You need these along the way. Like Jokic had these along the way.
And it's literally the first time
you just go, shit, man. That guy kicked your ass tonight. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. He got you. And that's fine. Like, that's part of the process, to your point. So if the Nuggets can beat a LeBron-less Lakers team here in a few games, It
Well,
feels like that.
we've got the Wolves before that.
Oh, I know, but God, I can we just have it healthy AG for a Wolves series once, so I don't have to fucking watch Russell Westbrook have to guard goddamn Julius Randle, fucking again. I swear to
I'm
God, we should start Zeke Naji. We won't, but we should fucking start Zeke Naji. Julius
I'm
Randle
trying to get
sucks.
some Deron Holmes minutes, man.
I do not think we should get Deron Holmes in there. I'm pretty sure his knee is not playable.
No, his Achilles. He's been practicing.
Yeah.
He's been a participant. He's perfect. He's huge.
Oh, listen. I mean, I'm not denying that in the short
What
term,
if he's
maybe he could
good,
do it. I'm
Kyle?
just saying
What
I
if
don't
he's
think it's
good?
worth.
I thought about this for a full 30 minutes while
I don't think
watching
it's
that
worth
game today.
rupturing
I
his.
saw him. I saw him
Achilles
on the
tendon.
bench, and I was like, "My God, my king! What if you're good? What if you are good at basketball? We would be filled. If you could actually have an AG backup, like that's hypothetically kind of what what his role could be.
I mean, he's 6'10". He could be a backup Jokic.
I know, but I'm saying it's more like you could have him play both, really,
Yeah.
but depending on the matchup,
I'm just saying, like, you get height in there in the playoff rotation next to AG. Yeah, we can't get into that. But I'm just saying, even if you lose to the Timberwolves, the Lakers lost tonight. If you can beat the Lakers, it feels pretty good. If you're a Nuggets person, you'll have won the season series too, so that you'll be good. What do you think? One, do you think JJ pulls out the same like aggressive type
Yeah,
tactics?
he's gonna
Okay.
pull some bullshit. Yeah,
Okay.
it's harder to
And
do without LeBron. I will say that.
I was thinking that same thing. I was like, you can't put LeBron on Murray. And two, I'm not sure how much you want to show your hand here if you're the Lakers now that LeBron is down. Like, you're going to blow some other games.
Yeah, I mean, you lost to the Nets tonight, so
Right.
yeah.
D'Lo revenge game.
I don't.
But like,
I feel like maybe that it could be one of
it
those
also
games where they end up resting Luca. Honestly, where they're just like, yeah, we're gonna take this.
it's in the middle of kind of a crazy stretch for them. Like,
I don't know if they're on like a back to back or a front end of a but if they
They
have any
played-
excuse, I could see them doing something like that and just being like, you know what? Nah, we're good. Actually, you can go ahead and fuck us up, but
yeah, yeah. I just also think I have a theory that even if
who would
Luka
you
plays,
vote for? Who would you vote for MVP?
I'd vote for Jokic.
Oh, good. Okay.
I
I
just
don't
think
have to call you a dumbass on the show.
no. I think to your point, I think team success matters to a point. But at this point, we've kind of seen how you can build a regular season juggernaut. And not that it's easy or anything, but like there were some times in that first game and even in the second game where you were like, God damn, they're just going to keep getting up threes. They're just going to keep playing hard defense. Like they are just kind of a wear you down regular season where you're just like, fucking Christ, these guys have a lot of energy, and they play smart and they play together.
And there's 12 of them.
Yeah.
They're all named Williams, too. You can't keep track of them.
To your point, I have no problem with Shea winning it. I think it's cool if he does. It's not like he's been so bad that it's like I would even say him over Embiid is more acceptable, right?
Totally,
like
100%.
Than the Embiid one was. But I mean, Jokic is unbelievable, and
he's the best player in the world. That's I guess my point.
That he carries. But to your point, it's even like, okay, he's the best, but he has so many good players. Maybe he's not the most valuable. No, like the burden Jokic carries is unreal.
Look at KCP. Look at KCP.
The Lakers were being praised as JJ Redick stayed up all night and was nerding out on the film to be like, just fucking leave everyone else open. Put all 5 on Jokic. I saw it in a dream, LeBron. Shut the fuck up. Like you were just praying Russ was going to miss threes, and he did. So good job. But fucking don't pretend like it was some
I mean, Malone said
masterstroke.
it.
Jared, I want you to foul him every
Yeah,
time.
Malone said it after the game. He was like, "We're going to see a lot of that. Like, it's going to be 4 players on Nikola Jokic, and everybody
Yeah,
else is going to be open. So we're going to
yeah,
have to make shots." So
yeah.
it's really the only way you can guard him, and he's still
But
going to give you 30, 20, and or
it's kind
30,
of the
12, and
definition of
8.
valuable to be like, people are like, yeah, man, Jokic had a triple double. Then the Lakers figured him out.
We did a
Is this
great
a fair
job.
way to defend him? My God. Like,
It's
not
just
only do you
crazy.
draw the
Like,
4 people, then you get a triple double, and people are like, God damn, he sucked. Like,
yeah.
it was
Well, it's just crazy that
the
like
definition of
we
most
had this whole most valuable build up to Sunday on the back of Jokic having the first ever 30, 20, and 20 game. Then he has a good game on Sunday, then backs it up, beats up tonight, and it's still going to be, I'm sure if you look at the odds right now, like Shea's probably minus 300, minus 400, like,
Yeah.
and that might be right. Like, but I do, it depends on who the voter is. Like, I think that there are more basketball people in this than you think there are, and like I just think if Jokic puts together an unbelievable last whatever it is 11 games, it's going to be hard to not give it to him. Like if they're the number 2 seed and it's clear that they separate, they get a 2-game lead on number 3.
Get
They
up
like
3.
they separate. Jokic is playing unbelievable. The team is railroading these. Like it's
You
gonna
need
be
big
hard.
moments, right?
Yeah.
Like the 30-20-20, you need like, oh man, it was 11, but it was like, God, Jokic has had 10 plus in the fourth quarter of the past 4 games to close these. You know, you need some
He hit a
moments.
game winner on the
Some
road
shots.
against the Lakers.
Exactly.
Like,
Those
yeah,
things matter.
that's what it's gonna take.
Yeah. All right. The other thing I wanted to say about this Lakers game is I totally agree with you that they should punt it. But I also think even if you play Luka, I don't think you play with the same strategy because I don't think you want the Nuggets before a potential playoff series to be able to send the league and go, look at what Jared Vanderbilt did 2 games in a row.
Well,
Like,
dude, I
it's
watched.
just going to be, on
Vanderbilt
video,
is hacking the
on
shit.
video. And, Dan can perform on video, but not everyone can,
He is heinously fouling people every single game. It's so bad. Like he is just out there. He's on like an Isaiah Stewart level that I thought was just reserved for Isaiah Stewart.
You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of when Carmelo Anthony would get excited for the Nuggets and try to play defense, but he'd just grab someone because he didn't know how. And Jared Vanderbilt's just doing that, but they're not calling it. So it's actually pretty good. Like,
I mean, I think that the game. Do you think we win if everybody
Lakers
plays? Yeah.
So I think we're going to lose to the Timberwolves again because I think no AG is a big deal, and I think Malone's not doesn't want to disrupt the locker room enough, which I think is fine. Like to start Zeke, but he should start Zeke because Julius Randle is cooked and he won't pass the ball. So if you just have someone his size on him, it'll be just fine. But we won't, so he'll score, and it feels like it'll be frustrating. But I do hope Christian Brown dunks on Rudy Gobert's Eiffel Tower ass and gets him thrown out of the game. So that would be great. But I do think we beat the Lakers. I think that one is circled on the calendar for the boys.
What about on the road?
I think sometimes the Nuggets have in the past seemed to enjoy giving it to those Lakers fans just as much as they enjoy getting the cheers from the Nuggets fans. I don't think that's
I don't know what you think about this, but the Nuggets road record in general is so much better than it's ever been.
Yeah, because we suck at home more than we've ever sucked.
I know, but I'm kind of like...
part of it was the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season was wild at home. Like, we've been better since. But good Lord, did we get off to a bad start. But yeah, it's been a better road too.
Yeah, I think we're at 20-14 or something. I mean, that's pretty good. Like I feel like most years we've been around 500. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a telling stretch. It's going to be a fun close to the season. I don't think I don't feel too stressed about getting the 2 seed right now.
The LeBron injury feels like it helps us. Memphis, they came back and won, but it was looking like for a second they were gonna blow that game tonight, which would have been a gift and a half for sure. But can't count on the Suns for anything.
They had a rough 10-game stretch. They've played a little better lately. I don't trust them or Houston to catch us. No. It was really just the Lakers and
no LeBron.
That LeBron thing it's a big deal.
Yeah, and I also think importantly, it's going to put miles on Luka in this stretch, and this is a guy who's been hurt a lot of the year, and if as not all reports are that his conditioning is not a number one priority for our man.
It's just hookah and beer, man.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not what you want if you're the Lakers, right? And I think JJ is a good enough coach and smart enough to be like, listen, I'd rather be a 3 seed with a healthy Luka and LeBron heading into the playoffs than a 3 seed with a exhausted Luka and gimpy Braun, right? Like, yeah, I just think that it's there. The talent on the rest of the team is not present if one of them is gone, LeBron or Luka. It's just on a night-to-night
it's tricky though. Like, honestly, when you look at it, I mean, the 3 plays. Like, you play Golden State in the first round if you're the Lakers right now. Do you actually want to drop into the 4 if you're gonna slide? Like, you might as well keep sliding and play either Memphis or Houston. And
especially because Houston's kind of kept winning, so they're not.
There's gonna be some of that. Like, it won't happen until that last week of the season. Yeah, last stretch. There's gonna be some maneuvering, I think. Yeah, and it'll be fascinating.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that at all.
It seems like the Mavs are gonna make the play-in, despite being one of the worst teams I've ever witnessed.
I hope they have fun in whatever one game they play.
It's gonna be the Kings, and I think that'll be a quick one.
Au revoir.
Yeah. But it's I mean, everything's pretty much set in the East, like in terms of the play-in. Like, there's seeding stuff to figure out there, but the game the 10 teams feel pretty set right now.
It's an exciting time of year, man. It's an exciting time of year. We got March Madness coming up. We got the push for the playoff run.
Are you going to games?
Together. I am.
I think I'm going to go to one session as well.
There you go. It'll be a beautiful thing. Well, I think that is our episode for tonight. As Dan finishes, so will we. And thank you for joining us here.
He's been finishing throughout
of the Blucifer Brothers. And thank you, Dan, for taking us behind the scenes in his hot tub adventure. And thank you for him for being a correspondent at spring training as well, doing the Lord's work, heckling Chris Bryant, doing, like I said, what only angels are thought to have done, Dan has been doing. Any thoughts from you, Ryan?
He's been making it rain over there too, let me tell you.
Oh my
and not God. Money wise, man. That's I just don't know where it all comes from.
For a moment I thought it was hailing.
A miracle of science.
Yeah. And that's what Dan's all about. Doing his own research. All right. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And
I think I need to pick up some of those low T supplements that Joe Rogan has been selling. Dan keeps sending me his link. I see that shit works.
We will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Blucifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.